Now, just before we start this video, guys, the merch store is up and running. If you guys want to support the channel and cop some merch, there is a link in the description below. Let's get into it. The AU Falcon is an Aussie cult classic. Almost everyone here in Australia knows these cars by name. And even though in the early years they did get a bit of a bad rep, lately people seem to have really fallen in love with the AU once again. Now this is a very clean Series 2 AU Forté, and to see one in such great condition, it really is rare. And it's not only the condition that makes this Forté rare. Have a listen to this. Yes, that is right. This is an AU Forté with a 5-liter Windsor V8. And with only about 101 of these things ever made, at least in Series 2, this is a very rare car to see. Now these Windsor V8s were mainly shown off in the XR8s, and they're a great engine. They really are. They've got a really unique sound to them. They made about 235 horsepower, about 175 kilowatts, and about 290 pound-foot of torque. So it's not the craziest V8 you're gonna see, but nevertheless, this is really a solid engine. Now this particular one is paired with the 4-speed auto, though there was a very small amount that were offered in a manual, totaling about 4 ever made. So let's fire this AU up and see how she goes. Now driving. This Series 2 AU Forté. My goodness, to be in the Forté model with a Windsor from factory, mate, this just feels so weird, to be perfectly honest, but it's so great at the same time. Now these AUs were launched in 1998, and they were carried through up until 2002 when Ford finally released the BA. And look, the AU, when it came out, was no joke. Like, Ford really did put a huge amount of money, time developing this thing, and it was honestly one of the best Falcons I think they had ever done. And just because of the fact they put a questionable front end design on this car, it just wasn't well received. Underneath this car, you know, the drive, the engineering behind the AU, it was impeccable. It honestly was. And when you look at AUs that are still on the road, and there's a lot of them, they are pumping some big kilometers behind them, and they can take it. These cars can seriously take just about anything you throw at them, and it is not uncommon to see an AU with over 300,000 kilometers still kicking on the road and doing it well. This particular old girl is really quite rare to see, only having 180,000 Ks on it. You know, and being in the Windsor V8, that again, only 101 Series 2 Fortés got a Windsor V8. So, you know, this is a really rare car. And there was over 45,000 Series 2 AU Fortés. So it is absolutely a treat, an honor, a privilege to be driving this car today and showing it off with you guys, because this really is a piece of Aussie history. And my goodness, that old 5-liter sound does not disappoint. Now, just before we continue with this Windsor V8 AU Forté, guys, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so you get updated on all our weekly uploads. And let's get into this AU. Yeah, boy! Up the AU, brother! Now, straight away, we are in the Forte. And this was the budget Falcon of the time. And you can tell when you sit in here because, look, everything is just really cheap. It's really basic, but it all still works. And that is a really big thing with the AU because this thing was meant to last, and it does last, and it is probably the most reliable Falcon out there. And look, it doesn't even have the godly Barra engine, but this is still probably claimed as one of the most, if not the most, reliable Falcon. Biggest thing you know when you get in this car is the steering is just effortlessly light. It is so light, and this car, even though it does have aftermarket springs put in on it, it feels pretty boaty. You know, I'm not going to get around that fact. This thing still does feel boaty. Seats are very cushy, quite comfortable, but they are not supportive at all. This car is definitely not for the curves. This one is, getting into this real tight hairpin now. It's pretty compliant, though, I will say. And stepping on her, ew! That Windsor puts out some very nice noises. It really does. Now, this AU is totally factory, bar it has a different setup on the wheels. So actually the rear wheels are a little bit wider than factory. It's got a set of springs in it, and it's got an exhaust. That is it. And besides that, everything in this AU is totally factory. And you can't not smile while you're in this thing because, my goodness, you know, it's boaty, it's floaty, it's loose as anything, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. Giving it some beans on this windy road, you know, it can still take the abuse. It really can. Typical to AU standards, you know, these things can be used and abused quite hard, and they take it. And flooring it around these corners, you know, on the back road, quite a rough road too. It's doing it, and it's doing it pretty well for what it is. You get so much feel in this car, not so much translated through the seat or the wheel, but that pedal is really giving me some feedback, and especially when I'm running the gears here myself, it really does come alive, this car, and my goodness, that engine is beautiful. Just putting her back into drive, letting her do her thing. This AU is good. My goodness. You can't not love one of these things. I mean, look, yes, the outside, the front end, it's super questionable. I'm not a huge fan personally of the Forte design, but I got to admit, every year, every time I see one of these, I feel like it just gets better, it gets better, it gets better. The more you age this car, it really is like a fine wine. And I'm telling you, in another 5-10 years, these things are going to be shit hot. And to a lot of people, they already are, because my goodness, they really are a cult classic and a real piece of Aussie history. Funny enough, with the window switches, the AU always opposite direction, so you push it up to go down. And I don't know why they did that, but that's what they did. So let's get a bit of sound out of this old girl. So just cruising, we're in first, and my goodness, this old girl actually flies when you just let her freaking sing, because it's beautiful. And the sound, this is have a aftermarket exhaust, but that Windsor It just is such a lovely note. And honestly, from factory, they really did need a exhaust to let them come alive a bit more. I previously done a TS50, and I believe that had a totally stock exhaust, and I did complain a little bit that it was too quiet. Now, price, one of these cars, brand new, would have set you back about 36 grand, and that is with the V8 option. So, a lot of money actually back in the day for one of these things. On the used market, good luck even finding one. Look, like we said, there is literally like 100 of these things made. And I went on car sales. I could not find one V8 AU for sale in any generation for that matter. So they are extremely rare. Alrighty guys, it is the time 0 to 100. I have no idea what this thing is claimed at being a V8, but let's leave it in first. Preload her a bit. A little bit squirrely. Oh! Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm actually really impressed right there. That was really impressive, guys. I think that is going to be a really reputable time, considering this is a base model AU Forté. That was actually quite impressive to me. It even chirped the tires a little bit on launch. And look, I may have assisted it slightly going downhill a little bit, but I had to give it its best chance, and we might have hit 100 in first gear. And could you imagine how insane that would be? Even if we just missed it, as soon as this was in second, we were well over 100, literally as soon as we shifted into second. Now I'm gonna finish the video off here today, so a huge thank you goes out to the owner for allowing me to take out his Series 2 AU V8 Forté, because this car is, again, just so rare, so well kept, and for me to be able to share this car, experience it, I just can't thank him enough. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. If so, please remember to hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you're new here, and we'll see you in the next video.